Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Menachos Daf Mem Vav. We begin on the bottom of Mem Hayamad Beis. Amar B'Yechanan Hakol Moedim. This goes back to yesterday where we had a machloikus. So we're speaking about the package, the two kvasim, the shlamims that you bring together with the shtei alechem, the two breads on Shavuos. So they're one package. You do the tenufa on both of them together simultaneously. And the question is, suppose you only have one element without the other. You have the breads, you don't have access to kvasim, or vice versa. So according to Rabbi Akiva, the lechem is the essential element. You can do lechem without kvasim, but not kvasim without lechem. Bananas, however, disagrees. He says, actually the critical element are the kvasim. You can bring those even if you don't have lechem. Amar B'Yechanan, Hakol Moedim, but all agree Shim Huskaku Zelazeh, that if the two elements, the kvasim and the lechem, got bound to each other, they got sort of interlocked. At this point, they are inseparable. Shema Akvin Zelazeh. So in this case, they are ma'akev. You can't have one without the other. What affects that bond? Ve'ezeh. Zika shalem. What constitutes zika? Shchita. You see, the shchita on the kvasim is what is mekadesh the lechem, as we'll see by the Hashem in the next stuff. Once you do that shchita, they are tied and bound to each other. They become one inseparable package, in which case, if one of these two elements disappears on you, it renders the whole thing useless. You can no longer use the rest. So yeah, initially, if you have lechem without kvasim, according to Rabbi Akiva, you proceed. But if you have them during the shechita together, and then the kvasim disappear on you, you cannot proceed with the lechem alone, and vice versa, right? Amar Bob Ma'arav and Eretz Yisrael, they had a following question. Fine, so shechita binds them, ties them together. What about tenufa, which happens before the shechita? So you wave together the kvasim with the breads, up, down, right, like on Sukkot with the lulav, right? To bring about bracha, to affect protection from all the ruchais, rois, etc. So they were sort of together in this joint experience, this tenufa. Does that also bind them together, rendering them inseparable? Tenufa oisa zika, or maybe not, oyeina oisa zika. Says the Gemara Pshat, Rabbi Yechanan, why can't we resolve this question by looking at Rabbi Yechanan's statement just said? Rabbi Yechanan, shchita is what makes the oisa zika machlal. So apparently, only that machlal the tenufa, which precedes the actual shchita, to the tenufa ain't oisa zika. Perhaps, yeah. Says the Gemara, no, it's not so clear, because to Rabbi Yechanan the question actually focused on Rabbi Yechanan himself, who says that shchita makes that zika. Okay, so one way is mifshat pshita leila Rabbi Yechanan the shchita oisa zika utnufa ein oisa zika. Was it clear to Rabbi Yechanan that only shchita, which is the actual initiation of the akrava process, makes that zika, but tnufa not? Or you can say, all the Rabbi Yechanan referred to shchita, he didn't necessarily mean to rule out tenufa unequivocally. It was clear to him that shchita makes that, has that effect, but he wasn't sure about the tenufa. You can still, question that tenufa mesapkale, and therefore take it, leave it unresolved. So you're telling me that in Eretz Yisrael, they had a question whether tenufa has this binding effect, bonding them together, interlocking them, and now they're bound to each other. If you recall that pasuk of yesterday, which was a source for the machlokas in terms of what's considered critical, is it the lechem, is it the kvasim, right? Machlokas between Rabbi Akiva, who says lechem, Menachos, who says kvasim. It was based on kodesh yu l'Hashem l'kohen. The pasuk there speaks about the tenufa. I'll just read the whole pasuk. The kohen will now do tenufa on both sheep, al lechem habikurim, together with the breads, tenufa lefnei Hashem, al shnei kvasim, right? Kodesh yiyu la'Hashem la'koyin. We learned yesterday that according to one shita, yiyu is the absoluteness that's going on the lechem, according to the other shita, it's going on the kvasim. Now, these words, this phrase, right, is at the end of the pasuk, which had already referred to tenufa. So even after the tenufa, we allow one element to survive without the other. You're telling me that perhaps tenufa binds them together, making them inseparable? Kodesh yiyu la'Hashem la'koyin, when the pasuk speaks about the absoluteness of one of the two elements, depending on the opinion of yesterday. And guess what? Basar tenufa ksiv, it's speaking after the tenufa pligin. There's still a machlokes between Ben Amos and Rabbi Kiva. Which one is the more essential, right? Well, if you tell me that tenufa binds them together, turns them into one inseparable package, so how could you say one is good without the other? Says the Gemara, well, with Tamech, let's turn the question back to you. Basar tenufa or basar shchita? The words Kodesh yiyu la'Hashem la'koyin. What does that mean? You're going to give it to the kohen for consumption. Of course, that only happens after shchita, after shchita and the zrika. So then we have a question, you have a greater difficulty to deal with, because all agree, I mean, Rabbi Yechanan stated that as a fact, that certainly shchita makes that zika, makes that connection, in which case it's one inseparable package. So then again, how could you have lechem without the kvasim, according to Rabbi Kiva, etc.? Kodesh yiyu la'Hashem la'koyin, but that definition means it's going to be given to the kohen after everything, after shchita and zrika. So you have to say that although in terms of the actual event, it's going to be actualized only later, it's only going to be given to the kohen later, after tenufa, after shchita. But the pasuk, however, is now discussing now what's going to be later. It's discussing the later event in advance of that event. So it's still before the shchita. Umay kodesh yiyu la'Hashem la'koyin. What does the pasuk mean? It's going to be given to the kohen, referring to this item now, which eventually will be given to the kohen. Davar shesay for the kohen after the shchita. Hachanami is the same regarding the tenufa question. This phrase in the pasuk, although it's stated after the words describing the tenufa, but actually it's taking place before the tenufa. Hachanami is just saying that this is a davar shesay for the kohen. It's not yet tenufa, it's not yet shchita, but this thing after you get to the tenufa and the shchita will be given to the kohen. So at this early stage, pre-tenufa, pre-shchita, yeah, you can have one without the other, right? But certainly after shchita and perhaps after tenufa, once there's that zika, once we have that sort of interlock, you can't separate. Okay, so shchita certainly has that effect. Tenufa will not show. Ask the Gemara, really? Shchita is a zika, so shchita makes that interlock. There are many, we have a brisa which discusses actually a carbon toida, which is a similar arrangement. There's carbones with the breads, right? That come together as a package. Something went wrong with the breads. Either the breads broke apart, they're meant to be whole and complete, or they yatsa, right? They left the premises, they left Yerushalayim, they became pasul, or they became tummy. So we have three different scenarios. And what do we do? So it depends when it happened. It could have happened at three possible stages in the process. Okay? So before you did the shchita on the actual carbon toid, nifras lach, when the breads broke apart. Okay? So you replace that loaf with another loaf. Okay? And you continue. And you do the shchita. Suppose the breakage occurred after shchita. So at this point, there was already kedusha applied to the bread. You keep on going. You don't have to replace it. Hadam Yizarik, continue with this rika of the carbon toid. And you're going to consume the basar of the carbon. Now Rashi points out that it turns into a shlamim, because since the bread or the breads became pasul, so it can no longer count as a carbon toida. But you can quickly shift the animal and turn it into a shlamim. A shlamim is I say a toida is like a variation of a shlamim. It's a subset of a shlamim. So if it doesn't work as a toida, you can use it as a shlamim. So of course he hasn't really fulfilled his obligation. He has to bring another toida, v'lechem pasal. The bread cannot be eaten because it was, So that's if it occurred during this juncture, after shchita, before zrika. Nizar kadam. If this episode occurred after zrika, after completing the process on the animal, it's a done deal. You're out of the woods. So it's a kosher or carbon toida. Toida min hashalom al paras. So you have to take the truma, one of the breads, give it to the kohen. So you find a whole bread and you sort of use that as truma even on the broken breads, and you're good to go. Okay, so in the first scenario we have broken breads. It could have happened before shchita, replace it. After shchita, keep on going as a shlamim. After zrika, it's a kosher or carbon toida. What about the second type of disqualification? Yatza. The bread's left Yerushalayim, out of the area. If the yitzia happened before shchita, no harm was done. Machnisa, bring it back in. V'shechet, and do the shchita. Mishashachta. Yatza lachma. If it left the area after shchita, between shchita and zrika. So similar to the previous case, we say hadam yizarek, v'basa yachal, v'deinit leyatza. Continue with this zrika as a shlamim. You can consume the carb as a shlam, but you haven't really fulfilled your toida, you have to bring another one. V'lechem pasal. This is kadam. If this episode occurred after zrika, you're in safe territory. You're done. Toida mashu b'fnim mashu b'chutz. You do the truma from the bread that's still in the Yerushalayim on the one that's outside, and you have your carbon toida as good as ever. Now, achalei shachtanit malachim. In the third case, we have tuma, which occurred to the bread. Okay, so the bread became tummy. Again, it depends when. Before shchita, maybe lechem achar v'shechet, replace it with other ones and do the shchita. Misha shachta, but it occurred after the shchita, before zrika, nit malachman. Hadam yizarek, v'basi achel, v'dei nitzra yatza. Oh, here it switches. Keep on going. Do the zrika as a toida. Eat the basar, and you have fulfilled your obligation. You know why tumah is different than breakage or yaitze? Because of the tzitz, right? The tzitz addresses, it overrides. It accommodates tumah. Shat tzitz, miratz ala tam. It sits the forehead plate of the kohen gadol will override the tumah issue and render it kosher. But of course, it doesn't make the lechem kosher. It just makes that the carbon is still a full and complete package, and the carbon is a proper carbon toida. But lechem pasal, of course, you can eat the lechem. What if the tumah occurred after zrika? After you completed the hakrava, nidra kadam, so you're good to go. Toira menachos, you just take a bread which is tar and use that as the truma on the rest. Now, the kasha will be, let's just recap. We have three possible problems here: breakage, yatza, and tummy. And they could have occurred either before shchita, after shchita, between shchita and zrika, and after the zrika. We're going to focus on the middle scenario where the psol, the problem occurred between shchita and zrika. Okay, so let's say it broke, or it was a yaitse, it became pasul. The Brisa says you can continue. You can continue and use it as a shlamim. The question is, binds them together, the animals with the breads. You can't separate them anymore. If something happens to one of the two, the whole package is disqualified. So once the shchita was zoikik them, if lechem, and something happened to the lechem, it left Yerushalayim, tifsil nami toida, the whole toida should be pasul. The answer is shani toida dichrachmana kari shlamim. True, it can't be used as a toida, but as we explained, a toida is really a subset of a shlamim. Torah calls it a shlamim. Al chalois lechem chametz yakriv karbone al zevach toidas shlamav. So toida is a variation of a shlamim. And therefore, in this case where you lost your breads, you can still count it as a shlamim. So it's different. It's different than the halacha of the shtei kvasim with the shtei alechem and shvuos. There, it's either this or nothing. But here, even though it's a failed toida, can still count as a shlamim. Ma shlamim krevim lechem, just as a shlamim can go without bread, doesn't have bread. Av toida krevim lechem, likewise a toida in this case can proceed without the lechem, will count as a shlam. Okay. So bottom line is regarding the shnei kvasim and shnei alechem and shvuos. So, in general, if you have one without the other, according to Rabbi Kiva, you can have the breads without the kvasim. According to bananas, the kvasim without the breads. But if they were huskak, that once you have them and they're tied and bound to each other, for instance through the shchita, or some say perhaps through the tenufa, at this point they're one inseparable package. Let's say we go with the track that tenufa oisezika. That in fact tenufa makes that connection. So now once you did the tenufa avad alechem of the kvasim, so at this point if something disappears, the whole thing collapses, right? You lose the lechem, you lose the kvasim of the avad lechem. But vintam telema tenufa eino yisesika. Let's take the approach that tenufa does not have that effect. Now hevi lechem kvasim. So he brought the whole package, full, did the tenufa, the lechem is missing. Vehevi lechem macher, and replaced it with new bread. So the question is like this: what about the tenufa to the lechem? Do we have to redo that tenufa because this new lechem had no tenufa done to it? Or you say lechem, this new bread ton tenufa, does it require a new tenufa? Or yeah, tenufa, perhaps not. The Gemara continues. Look, of the kvasim atibaylach. Certainly, I would agree if the kvasim were the ones that disappeared and were now replaced with new ones. There's no question the vadebo tenufa. Of course, they need tenufa. Rashi explains. You know why? Two reasons. First of all, the kvasim are the mater. They're the ones that permit the bread for consumption. They're their activators. They're the drivers. And certainly, if we look at the pasuk, it says the reference in the pasuk is primarily to the kvasim. They're the focal point of the tenufa. So if you have to replace with new kvasim, which hadn't had tenufa, you have to redo tenufa. There's no question. The question will apply regarding the breads, the new breads. Suppose the bread disappeared, and now you want to replace it. But this new bread had no tenufa. Now, valiba, furthermore, it branches out even further. Valiba de bananas, according to bananas, there's no question that the lechem does not require a new tenufa, because once the kvasim had tenufa, and they're the focal point of the whole package. The Amar kvasim ikar, he says kvasim is the main thing. If you have kvasim without lechem, you can continue. So, according to him, once the tenufa was applied to the kvasim, even though the new lechem hadn't experienced tenufa, you're good to go. The question will apply according to Rabbi Kiva, the Amar who says lechem ikar. Generally, lechem is the primary element, right? He says if you have lechem, you can do without the kvasim, but not vice versa. So what would you say in this case, where only the kvasim experience the tenufa, not the lechem? Given the lechem ikar boy tenufa, since according to him the lechem is the focal point. Boy tenufa, you have to ensure that they experience tenufa. Idemo, you can say, look, the kvasim also have an advantage. They're the matirim, they're the drivers. Given the matir in the day, since the matirim, the permitters for consumption of the bread, are the kvasim and other kvasim, like tzarech tenufa, perhaps once they had the tenufa, that's adequate. You see, because there's an element of favor to both. The lechem on the one hand are considered the ikar, they're the focal point of the package, but on the other hand the kvasim are the drivers, the matirim. Okay, so take it, we'll leave it standing unresolved. Okay, so again let's recap. We have the kvasim and the lechem, and one of them went missing after the tenufa. Do we have to redo the tenufa on the replacement? So again, if tenufa makes zika, it's nothing to talk about. If you don't have the original, the whole thing is gone. But if you say tenufa does not make that zika, you could replace something. Okay? So now, if the kvasim are the ones that are replaced, there's no question tenufa has to be redone. All agree, because they're the matirim, and that's the main reference in the pasuk. What if the lechem disappears? So again, according to bananas, lechem is considered secondary. You don't need to redo the tenufa. According to Rabbi Kiva, that the lechem is primary. No, it's a good question. Do we have to redo the tenufa or not? Tonight, take. Continues the Gemara. Amali Abaye, L'Rav, I have a question. We speak so much about the two lechem as considered like, one package with the shnei kvasim, which are the shlamim. So what happened to the other many karbonis that are discussed in Vayikra, which also come on account of the bread? We craft them al halechem, and we have a whole list of karbonis: a par, 2 elim, 7 kvasim oilos, a soyer. Why are we only focusing on the 2 kvasim? Whether they're ma'akev or not, but all agree on the other karbonis. We're not talking about the musafin; those are certainly separate. But the ones that come on account of the bread, why are they not considered one package with the bread as well? Just as the 2 kvasim are. Why is it that the 2 kvasim, the shlamims, are the ones that are mekadesh the lechem? Those are the ones that are critical for the bread. What about the 7 kvasim, the oilos and the par and the elam? I don't have that status. Why? What's the difference? Amalei says, big difference. Only the 2 are waved together in the tenufa experience with the bread. That is indicative of their relationship with the close relationship and bond with the bread. So he says, but take a look at the Toida. You can't say that it's a tenufa experience that bonds them together, because a carbon Toida, which also has a similar arrangement, carbonates and breads, there's no binding together with a tenufa, and still we say that the actual animal, the carbon Toida, is mekadesh the breads and is me'akev the breads. So you can't attribute it to the tenufa because it doesn't have tenufa. So back to the question: why by us do we say only the 2 kvasim have that, extra status over the other karbonos that also accompany the bread? Ella k'toida. Rather, says the Gemara, we will learn from a Toida, but in a different way. Ma Toida shlamim afachanami shlamim. You agree that the Toida has this type of arrangement, that the animal is makadesh, it's ma'akev the breads. Okay, what defines the Toida? It's a form of shlamim, right? Like we learned before. So you see that the shlamim has that power to be makadesh and ma'akev the breads. Hachanami shlamim here as well by the shtei alechem on shvois. It's only the 2 kvasim which are the shlamims that have that ability. Well, says the Gemara, you're comparing it to a Toida. Difference is that by Toida, yeah, for sure the Toida does the job because there's only one animal to speak of, but over here you have many. Who's to say that this one drives the other ones? Midami. How can you compare? Hasam lekas v'chem achrini by the Toida. All you have is one, not more. Ba'adei together with the breads. But over here you have many other karbanis with the bread. Suppose they all have this status. They all have the ability to be mekadesh, not just the 2 kvasims. Ella rather says, well, let's go to the 3rd or 3 cases in the Torah where you have a carbon with breads. Shtei alechem on shvois, with the shtei kvasim, you have the Toida with the breads, you have the ayel nazar that nazar brings. He brings a carbon with breads. So we'll compare it to the ayel nazar. Ella ayel nazar, my ayel nazar, just like my ayel nazar, which is a carbon shlamim. There, it's very similar to shvois because you have the ayel nazar, which is a shlamim, which is mekadesh the breads, despite there being other karbonos that come along. So you see that the shlamim is the one that does that job, despite the presence of others. Even though there are many others, it's the shlamim, the ayel nazar, that does the trick. Who the mekachi is mekadesh the breads, but not the other animals. Here as well on shvuos. Lo ishna, it's irrelevant. The fact that we have many others, we ignore those. It's the shlamim, the 2 kvasim that do the kiddush on the breads. How do we know that by nazar? In fact, it works this way. The sign you have a brayse as ayel yasses of shlamim lashem al salam matzos. So he brings the ayel as a shlamim al salam matzos together with the breads. Malamed we learn from here that there is a close connection. Shasal, the basket of breads, b'choy v'la'ayel, is obligatory, is an accompaniment, is related to the ayel. Ushchitas ayel mekadshon, and by extension we say the ayel is mekadesh the bread. So the shchita, the ayel, does the kiddush. Lefichach, and therefore, shachta shlo l'shmoy l'kitchul lehalech. If he does the shechita on the aisle without the right intention, since it's not a successful hakrava, the breads don't become kaddish. So that's the source for us as well. So just as over there, it's the ayal shlamim that does the kiddush, despite the presence of other karbanis. Here as well, it's the shnei kvasim, in particular, that do the kiddush, because they are the shlamims in the package. Tana Rabbana. Now, according to Rabbi Akiva, who says, if they only have 2 breads, you bring the breads without the kvasim. Shtei halechem. Tana Rabbana. Shtei halechem abois b'fnei atzma. So let's say they bring those breads independently. What do we do with them? Yunifu. You do tenufa to them. With tu'uba tzirasam, you can't eat them. Tu'uba tzirasam, you let them spoil, sort of, stale, stay overnight. V'yetzu l'beis hasreifa. And they're taken out to be burnt. To the beis hasreifa. Why? Why not just give it to the kohanim to consume? And if you're going to tell me that for some reason you have to burn them now. Why wait till they lose their form and they become puzzled by waiting overnight? Lina. Monoshach. Where are you coming from? Ilach ilas, and if they're meant for consumption, they're perfect, karbanos. L'chlinu, just eat them. Eat them now. Ilas reifa asin. If you're going to tell me for some reason you have to burn them, because ultimately it wasn't a successful package, it was just the breads and not it was a partial process. Let's say if you're not allowed to burn them right now. On Yom Tov, lamalu ibatzur. Why leave them overnight? Amar Rabbah. So we're going to have 3 explanations. First comes Rabbah. He says, "Lo'im nachila asin." Truthfully, the shtei alechem that come on their own are perfectly fine. You can eat them. Menachos, nachila asin. But with the Rabbanon we don't. Gzeira, there's a concern. Shema yizdam. It might cause confusion because around next year, Shema yizdamnu lehen kvasim shana haba. Perhaps next year they'll come up with sheep, and somebody standing by will say, "Well, if you got to skip the sheep, just eat the breads. Just last year we had the breads alone." For Yom people might say, "Eshtaka, look, last year loichan lechem lekvasim. Didn't we eat the lechem when they were brought along without the kvasim? Achshav nam nechel. We do the same now." But they don't realize. They won't realize the ishtaka they have a kvasim. The last year they had no kvasim to speak of. Inu shari and avshayu. So therefore the breads will matter themselves. They permitted themselves like a self-driving car. But right? But now that we have Baruch Hashem, we have access to kvasim. You have to wait for the kvasim to be processed to eat the breads. Kvasim with the shari lahu. So they might mistakenly turn last year's exception into this year's rule. So that's why we don't eat it ever when they come along. Amar Rabba Manah says, Rabba, I'll prove my point. You know how I know that it is so? That in fact, the two lechem which come on their own are meant to be consumed in Atayra. This now we have a Mishnah in Maseches Shkolim regarding the annual Machzas HaShekel contributions. Are the Kohanim obligated to send in a Machzas HaShekel which is meant to finance the karbanos, the public karbanos throughout the year? This is not. Amar B'Yehuda. Hey, the Bukhri, there was a Chacham ben Bukhri who testified in B'Yavna when the yeshiva was in Yavna. He says like this: Kohanim are not obligated to contribute to the Machzas HaShekel fund. But Kol Kohen Shekel in a Chaytev, if a Kohen decides on his own to contribute, he's not a sinner. It's not considered a private, donation that remains private and personal property. No, it becomes sort of absorbed into the public fund, and it's kosher for use. But really, they're not obligated to do so. Rashi explains because it says Kol Eibar Lapakudim, only the ones that were counted. Kohanim weren't really counted in the midbar. Okay. He disagrees. He says just the opposite. Just the opposite. Ella, a kohen is certainly obligated to contribute. Ella kol kohen she'ein shekel. In fact, if a kohen withholds his money, he is a sinner. But the Kohanim found some sort of excuse not to send in their monies. Ella she'kehanim doishin mikros el atzman. They interpret the following verse to their benefit, to exempt them. What's the pasuk? The pasuk says that a mincha that an ordinary Yisrael will bring, there's kmitza done, and the leftovers are given to the Kohanim for consumption. But the mincha of a Kohen is fully burnt on the Mizbeach. The question is, how can we contribute to the Machzas HaShekel fund, which is partially used to finance lechem aponim, shtei alechem, right, which are forms of menachos, and you're going to eat them. Well, if they're ours, Kohanim, you can't eat them. The fact that you eat them indicates that we're not really a part of it. So that exempts them from sending in their money. The mincha of a kohen is meant to be fully burnt. So they continue their argument. They say, if you're going to force us to contribute, so the result will be that the Eimer which is brought on Pesach, the Menachos Shtei Lechem on Shavuos, that's going to be the focal point of our discussion. The Lechem Apon and the weekly Lechem Apon, Shalonohen, are financed with our money. How can you eat them? Okay. So that's Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai's. So that's the Kehanim's argument, but it turns out that according to Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, it's really a mistaken interpretation, because this halacha of fully burning a kohen's mincha applies only to a private mincha, but not a public mincha, so it's a different thing. Okay. In any case, let's focus on one of the examples that the Kehanim referred to in their presentation. Shtei alechem. Okay, the shtei alechem. If they're ours, they can't be eaten, and they are eaten. Hani shtei alechem hechadam. What type of shtei alechem are we talking about? Are we speaking about the standard package? Shtei alechem with the kvasim? What kind of argument is that? Should be burnt? A mincha on its own is burnt, but this type of package mincha, it's a totally different arrangement. Look, every kohen brings a carbon tighter with breads and it's eaten. That's not a standard mincha, that's a package, an animal with a carbon. It's a whole different story. What are they arguing about? What are they saying about burning? You mean Kehanim never donate a carbon tighter with breads? Oh, they're talking about breads which came on their own. There was no kvasim that year. So, it's just bread. And according to their argument, this is like a mincha. It should be burnt. Uktani and the Mishnah says, that they're arguing, they're saying, well, how could you eat it? Look, you're eating it. Alma, lachi la'asyan. So clearly, this indicates to us that they are eaten by the Kehanim. And that's their argument. How could it be eaten? Etc. Right? Says Rabbah, this is my raya, that if they were only able to afford breads without the kvasim, you meant to eat it. Menachos. But with the Rabbanim, we explained there's a gzera we don't, but Menachos, it's edible. It's considered a successful operation. Abaye argues and says no. No, perhaps the Mishnah is not talking about breads which come on their own, independent of the kvasim. We're talking about it as together, as a package with the zebach. Now, regarding your question, mitoida v'lachma, that just like a toida and a lechem, there's no issue of Kehanim burning it, right? So why should this be different? Well, big difference. Lachmi toida, the breads of a toida la'ikru mincha are never called mincha, so there's no issue there. But shtei alechem ikru mincha, we find that the term label mincha is applied to the shtei alechem. Shneimar, as the pasuk says about krivchem mincha chadash l'Hashem. Hence their argument. They're referring to a standard package, nothing exotic. Just lechem with the kvasim, a standard package, a standard year. And still they have an argument. They say, look, those shtei alechems are called mincha. If we're going to contribute, you got to burn it. Okay, so Abaye disagreed with Rabbah. Again, the question was, according to Rakiva, if they only have breads without kvasim, you can proceed, but what do you do with them? Brisa says you burn it. Rabbah explains, Menachos, you eat it, but Rabboni, you have to burn it. Rav Yosef Amar, Leil Musreifa Asyan. He says, let me learn the Brisa literally. Menachos, it's meant to be burned, because it's not a really successful operation. They only had the lechem, it's not a full package. So you proceed, you bring it, but it's not considered a successful endeavor, you don't eat it. No, so the question was, so burn it now, why wait till tomorrow morning when it becomes puzzle, when it gets an additional disqualifying element of lina? The reason why we don't burn it today on Yom Tov, we never burn kachim on Yom Tov. We learn from a pasuk, Gemara and Shabbos, wait till Chalamoid. Hence the delay. Amalei Abaye. Midami, how do you compare? Hasam lav mitzvasam bekach. Yeah, we don't burn kachim psulim because they were never meant to become puzzle. Hachad mitzvasam bekach, but here, it's part and parcel of the process. It's required. It's not like a proper carbon that failed on you. Here, initially, it's meant for a sreifa. L'srefinu, burn it on Yom Tov. You burn things on Yom Tov, if that is the initial requirement. I'll give you an example. A parvasar on Yom Kippur, Shem Kippur, you burn them. So why not burn them now? Alam Rav Yosef. Let me explain to you why. We wait until tomorrow. Really? You should burn it now. But you never know, they might come up with sheep sometime during the day. So don't burn it yet. That explains why you're going to wait until, the end of the service day in the Beis HaMikdash. Rashi says the Tamid Shebin Arbaim sort of ends the Hakrava process in the Beis HaMikdash, the last carbon. So I understand why you wait till then, because you might still catch up with some kvasim. But the Basar Hachi, once the Hakrava time in the Beis HaMikdash is up, the Serafim burn it right then. Don't have to wait till tomorrow morning. You're right. My tu b'tzeras and nami diktani. When the Brisa says tu b'tzeras, doesn't mean wait until it gets stale tomorrow, until it gets lina. Tzeras hakravasim means the time of the akrava. So you wait until more or less evening and then you burn it. So we have two shitas regarding the lechem that comes ifnei atzman. Either minatorah you eat it, and the rabbanon you burn it, or minatorah you burn it. Rabba Amar, here comes the third approach. Lachila asya, minatorah you eat them like Rabba. Ugzeira mishum de Rabba. The reason why we burn it is because of Rabba's concern that next year it might cause confusion. But in terms of Rabba's proof from that Mishnah, I disagree. I'm going to bring a proof from my pasuk. The shtei lechem in this case is eaten. Elamikra. So where's my pasuk? Says Rabba Dechsiv. Look at the pasuk. In reference to the shtei lechem. Mimosh ve'yisechem taviyu lechem tenufa. And the pasuk includes with the term bikurim lashem. Bikurim is like Bechar, the firstborn. This is going to be the first offering, so to speak. This is going to open the door for bringing the new crop to the Beis HaMikdash. So the pasuk refers to bikurim. That allows us to make a connection between shtei lechem and bikurim. Bikurim are the first fruits that a person will bring from his farm. Ma bikurim b'fnei atzman, av shtei lechem b'fnei atzman. Just like bikurim are brought alone without accompanying animals and karbonos, same thing with shtei lechem. At times you bring them on their own if you don't have no choice. So once we have that connection, we make a further connection, and we know ma bikurim la'achila. Just like when you bring bikurim, the kohen eats it. Av shtei lechem nam la'achila. Likewise, shtei lechem, even in this fashion, when they're brought alone, certainly they're meant for la'achila. That's Menachos, but the Rabbanon, we don't because of that possible confusion next year around. Okay, so let's recap today's daf. On Shavuos they bring a package, shtei kvasim, which are shlomim, together with shtei lechem. If you have just one without the other, what do you do? According to Rakiva, lechem is primary. You can do that without the kvasim. According to bananas, kvasim are primary. But all agree if there's shchita done, they're already huskak, they're bound together, you can't separate them. Some say perhaps even tenufa as well has that effect. We had a question regarding redoing tenufa on replacement breads. We had Abaye's question, why are the kvasim unique in the fact, in the sense that they are mikadesh, they are me'akiv? And the answer was, we learned from the Eil Nazar, where the shlomim has that role as well. Shtei lechem that come on their own, according to Rakiva, that you could do so. Brisa says you burn them. Explains Rabbah, really they're meant for achila, but there's a gzeira because they're next year, so you burn them. Riyasa says they're meant for burning, but we wait around until time's up. According to Rabbah, they're meant for achila, and he bases it on a pasuk. Okay, all the best to you and much hatzlacha.